Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast from Visit Aurora from the rafters of the Stanley Marketplace. This is the show dedicated to telling the stories of Aurora, Colorado. Hi there, I'm Dave, the Director of Marketing for Visit Aurora. Today, we're diving into culture, community, and identity through a brand new exhibit at the Aurora History Museum. Their Mosaics of Culture series is shining a spotlight on the Filipino-American community right here in our state. By the way, this isn't just an exhibit, it's a story of heritage, resilience, and pride told through the people who live it every day. I'm joined by two incredible guests. Vivian-Norman, president of the Filipino-American Community of Colorado. Thank you for being here, Vivian.
Thank you for having us, and good afternoon.
And Danielle Stratton is here as well, the organization's second VP of Culture and Education. Did I get that right?
That is correct.
All right, I was practicing that a little bit. Vivian, I want to start with you. Tell me, what's your story? How did you become involved with the Filipino-American community here in Colorado?
Where should I start?
At the beginning.
Well, I started with FACC. Most people know it as FACC. Since I was 14 when my aunt and uncle brought me to Colorado. So I started volunteering for them because they were very active, and I also danced cultural dances for FACC until I was in college, and then I'm still here. I took a break because life happens, and then when my son was a little bit older, I came back and active again.
How do you go from just being active to becoming the president?
Well, the president really is just a title that doesn't mean anything. That means you have more work.
I can appreciate that.
You're a slave to the community, right? So I became a president because I've known FACC for almost 40 years now. When we purchased the building in Edgewater, we were actually in Aurora. We were having meetings in Aurora. The membership meetings, all the gatherings were actually by Utah Park. So we would, get like I'm not sure, it's a center in by Utah Park that we would rent for membership meetings, any gatherings that the FACC had, because we did not have the building yet. So we did fundraising. It was bingo. As a teenager, we had to volunteer for bingo twice a week. That was our fundraising to purchase the building that we have now. We call Bahay Kobo, but it's our cultural center, and it's in Edgewater. Yeah. Danielle,
Aurora is home for you, right?
Correct.
How did you get involved with the organization? What's your journey been?
So I actually moved to Colorado and Aurora back in 2019 when my family moved here. And it was a couple of years later after that I saw that the Filipino-American Community of Colorado was hosting a dance workshop. And originally, I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, so I didn't really have those opportunities to connect with my culture in that way. And when I attended my first tinikling workshop, which tinikling is what people would think is the national dance of the Philippines, but it's more so the most popular dance of the Philippines. But I never had the opportunity to learn it. I showed up for a workshop, and then it was funny because Vivian was actually the one that was like, hey, we have a performance next month. You're going to perform.
Oh, okay.
And so from there, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll show up to practices. And I got involved as a cultural dancer. And then the community really just drew me in with the people who are a part of it, the elders, the youth, people who come from all different walks of life, the work that the FACC really was doing in terms of giving back to the community. Like, it wasn't just about sharing and promoting our culture. It was also giving back to our community. It was the health clinics that they were putting on. It was the food drives they were doing for the unhoused and things like that. When you give back to not just your community, but truly your place community, that's really the big draw factor for me.
VP of Culture and Education, that's strong, that carries a lot of responsibility. What does that mean to you in your day-to-day responsibilities?
I mean, I tell people that part of the big why of why I joined and why I want to volunteer so much is because of my family. I now have a daughter who is going to be a year old in the next 2 months, and she was my big why. And so the reason I wanted to become vice president in the long run is because I wanted to help bridge the community between the elders in our community and the youth in our community. And in the end, helping to build and support the programs that are eventually going to be for my daughter as she grows up in the community.
Vivian, for listeners who may not be familiar, how would you describe Filipino culture? What are some of the core values, traditions, and the traits that kind of define the community?
I think we still practice. A lot of us still practice our traditions, even though, for instance, me, I've been in the United States for 40 years. I still practice our traditions, like respecting our elders. We know that, I have to take care of the elders, as they grow old the kids. It's important for our next generations to know our culture and our traditions, because as we progress, or I guess our kids having kids and kids having kids, like our culture starts fading away. To me, it's important to keep that traditions, and FACC is a place for it. I'll give you an example. Like, no one at FACC calls me by my first name. Like, it was probably weird for her to call me Vivian, because she will call me Ate Vivian or Tita, So
Yeah.
all the kids at FACC that are younger than me, they will, we have that respect for each other, right? Like, so I want all, the kids, and not just Filipinos, because we do have members. If you see our cultural, even our board members, they're not all Filipinos, So, and they have adapted our culture. So I think it's kind of neat to see that.
Zooming in just a little bit, can you shine a light on what the Filipino-American community is like, specifically in Colorado and here in the Aurora, Denver metro area? What's the mission, and what are you most proud of as an organization?
Because there's not many of us. It's probably the last census that I was aware of. I think there was probably only like 16,000 of us in Colorado, and a bulk of it is probably in Colorado Springs and in Aurora. To me, even though there's not many of us, but we know of each other. Because there's so many different groups, but we know of each other, and if someone needs help, we are there. And if somebody posts something on social media, somebody respond right away. So we still practice the word bayanihan. That means uplifting, helping each other up. And like in the Philippines, in the provinces, bayanihan, when they say, oh, we have bayanihan, it's back then. Have you seen those houses made of coconut or and then just wood, and then they can lift it, they can move it anywhere. And that's what bayanihan is. All your neighbors will come together and move that house to wherever it needs to be moved, and that's how it is. I think that's one thing about our culture. We will help each other, and just like any other culture, like we might not like each other, but when somebody needs help, we're there, we don't always like each other. We always have, like, disagreement on certain things, but when it comes down to it, we're there for each other.
And part of being there for each other are the programs that you offer. Can you talk a little bit about that, Danielle? The key programs, the events, the initiatives that kind of lead you to preserve and share Filipino culture with the broader community?
Yeah. Like, speaking on just like the Filipino side of it, we have a lot of programs for our community, but our programs are also open, like Vivian said, like outside of our community. Like, we have a lot of dance and music workshops. Like, in the last 2-3 years, we've expanded to have like live music. So now we have a rondalia group. Then that's like the Filipino like stringed instrument group. We also have like Filipino like percussion that we have learned, like indigenous inspired music from the tribes that we work with in the Philippines. In addition to that, we have language classes that we are starting to expand more on. Like, we call her Ate Jonabel in our community. Jonabel Bland, she has led our language classes for over a decade now for the community. And she offers like Tagalog classes and Bisaya classes. And we have done so much like on the culture side of it. And it's always like expanding. Like, now we have more youth classes that we bring in more of our youth so they can connect with their culture as well. But we also have a lot of programs that give back to the community. Like I spoke before about like our unhoused initiatives. We have partnered with elementary schools and giving backpacks for their newcomers. We're working on partnering with some Aurora public schools as well, because there's such a high newcomer population in Aurora.
When a newcomer arrives, I can imagine how daunting that is, and then finding a community that they can feel some familiarity with, but also can help guide them in learning how to navigate what has got to be a confusing and maybe at times frightening specter. How do you help the folks that are coming here? I know we have an incredible immigrant community here and resources within the city of Aurora to help. How does your organization help those who are coming from the Philippines that are learning what it means to integrate into the Colorado community?
I think we have a really great way of connecting with people, like one-on-one. Like, we've worked with the city in general in having people come in and teach them about like newcomer resources. They also speak with a lot of like our immigrants who've been around for a long time to be like, what resources have helped you that we can share this with, other newcomers and immigrants coming in. But we also do a really great job with word of mouth. Everybody kind of knows everybody. And with that, it's like, oh, here's where you can go to find these resources. And, we have things like up on our website. We have things up on our Facebook page. There's all sorts of like events that we like to host in person to support people who come in.
The Mosaics of Culture exhibit at the Aurora History Museum, this is the 5th iteration of it. It's been going on for about a decade. It's really impressive. It's a fantastic testament to the strength of the diversity and the cultures that reflect, one of the things that makes Aurora so beautiful. How did you get connected with the Aurora History Museum, and how did the idea of the exhibit come about?
Actually, it started with the last president of FACC, Domingo Belen. He saw it on, I think, another event. And so he had asked, he met Scott, and he asked Scott, like, hey, how can we get in on it? I know FACC is now in Aurora, but a bulk of the Filipinos are in Aurora. And so a year and a half later, I think it was someone in the museum asked Scott, like, hey, can you get a hold of Domingo and see what we can, let's sit with him and see what we can do. And so when that opportunity came, Danielle applied for I guess it was it was an application process, apparently.
Gotcha.
And we were chosen for that year after Venetia's group. So we were really excited, and because there's another group here in Aurora that's the Filipino at Pasco, and we've also reached out to them to make sure that it's collaboration between the two organizations, because it's better to have more heads, or ideas, and not just FACC.
Of course, with more heads, more people think they know what should be in the exhibit.
Right.
How do you decide how to curate an exhibit like this that is telling the story of your people? How do you decide what to include, what to exclude? How do you make those determinations?
We've also invited some of the elders.
Okay.
And even founders of the FACC, which, as you all know, FACC was founded in 1954. But the one of the founder, when it became FACC, is still around. So I've talked to him, and Danielle has talked to a lot of the culture bearers in the Philippines to make sure that what we're presenting for the indigenous part of our culture is right, with the right way. Because there's so many different aspect of our indigenous people of the Philippines. So we don't just put out stuff that, it's going to offend a group of people, and the same thing with Pasco. They've also asked the elders and to make sure that, like any of the stuff, like even the attire or the instruments, because FACC still use our instruments right now. We can't really lend it,
right?
Because we're using it, the kolintang and the gong, and they happen to have extra ones, I guess. So that's what's being used at the exhibit right now.
It's an important point, because people aren't a monolith. You can't this is the agenda of this entire group of people. We're all so varied in our beliefs and the things that we value, and you're given a difficult task of representing as much of that as you can, as authentically as you can. Danielle, what stories, visuals, or artifacts kind of stand out for you that guests can experience?
I think the museum team, as well as like the exhibit committee that worked on this exhibit, did such an amazing job of picking up things that would be common enough for anybody to walk into. So like when you first walk into the exhibit, you get some more like general facts of the Philippines, facts about Filipinos in Colorado, and then you get into like a lot of the local stories. I think the local stories are what really stand out because you see the typical, like the different topics that we have in there. Like there's a food category, there's a part like with the different attires that are represented throughout the Philippines. You have like the culture side of it with like the dance and the music. You also have like the religion side of it, the the flowers that are represented in the Philippines, what they represent. And even though you have all of these different aspects of the exhibit, the big thing that really stands out to me is the voices. Like, I think, like right now, the first thing that comes to my mind is Fran Campbell, because her grandfather is represented. She's represented at the exhibit as well, but her grandfather's story is also in that exhibit. And I know that when she walked in and saw that, she was emotional. She shared that story with us. And when we saw it in person at the exhibit, it's a very emotional thing to go in there as a Filipino and see so much represented. It's so hard to pick out everything because, again, yeah, you're right. The Philippines is not a monolith. There's so many different cultures within the Philippines. There's the different regions. There's the different islands. And when you consider all these different aspects, you have to consider the people who are here. And so I think they did such an amazing job, the committee, the museum team, in putting together something that is reflective of Filipinos here in Aurora, as well as something like a neighbor could come in who's not Filipino and be like, oh, this is amazing. I can connect with this in some way.
Yeah, one of the things I love about the Mosaics of Culture exhibit is it's living, breathing history and current reflection of culture. You know, for example, you know, the story that you just told is powerful. You know, the last exhibit with the Nepalese community, you know, it was their grandfather's actual items. You know, they said, hey, Grandpa, can you send this to me? We want to show this to the world. You know, this is a living, tactile testament of a current state of a culture. And you don't get that in, you know, and I'm not discrediting, you know, ancient civilizations or whatnot, but when you have an exhibit like that, you feel almost disconnected with it. This is very, very personal. Vivian, was there in a story or an emotional piece for you that kind of really makes you proud when you see it at the exhibit?
Yeah, actually, I saw a picture of my uncle.
Okay. See, it's very personal.
Yes, and my uncle is not Filipino, but he was a very important person in our community because he was very passionate about getting the building along with the other founders. And I was telling my husband and the people on the board, you know, when he retired at 55, he woke up every day just like he was going to work, but he was going to FACC fixing something. Okay. He was always doing something there. And he was there with his friends. You know, I say that for friends because they were the elders, you know, so they would just, they called it, we didn't call it the Bahay Kubo, that means small house, that's in the Philippines, but we called it the clubhouse. FACC was our clubhouse. And that's where we all gathered and party and meetings and welcome people that wants to learn about our culture. But the elders were there almost every day, just hanging out, fixing something. And because we didn't have the money to hire a contractor, right? Mm-hmm. So my uncle was a contractor for a living. He did that for over 40 years. And so he knew how to fix stuff and whatnot. And a lot of the elders knew, you know, how to fix stuff too. They were Filipinos. Yeah. And he was the only, well, there was only a couple of them that was not Filipino. And, but they all got along and they had one mission, and it was to make sure that this Bahay Kubo, lasts long and from generations to come. And it's funny because when you walk into FACC, you'll see the light above us. That's, my uncle donated that from his contract work. Like, oh, wow. He remodeled a hotel, and I think it was like a Holiday Inn, and it was in their like lobby or whatever, and it's hanging at FACC, and it's still there, and has not changed, you know, and stuff like that. And that is I think it's awesome that, that the kids will be able to see that, but hopefully, that we continue to tell the stories, and I think that's what the Mosaic of the exhibit is all about, is telling our stories.
Yeah. Danielle, what do you hope folks that aren't Filipino take away from the exhibit?
Oh, that's a good question. I hope that they come in and learn more about our community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the basis of it all is more knowledge about us, because there's so many stories about what people think they know about Filipinos, and a lot of them true, of course. Like, we love to karaoke, we are a joyful people. That's all true. Yeah. And it's so much deeper than that.
Right.
And I remember at the opening exhibit reception, they're talking about, the Filipino community. They're your neighbors, they're your coworkers, they're your friends. And I hope that they come in with a deeper knowledge of the community, and that they feel like they feel welcome there, because that's very much a big thing in the Filipino community, is that it doesn't matter who you are. You walk into anybody's doors, whether it's the community center, whether it's a shared space, whether it's their own homes. The idea is that when you welcome them in, they feel welcome. And it doesn't matter if they know about Filipinos or not. It doesn't matter if they can point out the Philippines on a map. They should be able to walk in and be like, I feel welcome here. I feel like I can learn something here, and that I could connect somehow, some way here.
You've alluded to this a couple of times, Vivian, but for the younger generations, what are you, particularly the Filipino youth, what are you hoping they take from this exhibit?
I hope that they appreciate, the grandparents or their parents that came, to this country to have a better life. And I hope they they understand that and appreciate that, and they they don't take it for granted, because not just everyone can come to the United States. It's like, why don't you just buy a ticket? That's not how it works.
Right.
You come here, you have to work very hard, to get to where you are, so you guys can have a better life. And that's what we did as Filipinos. We came to the United States to have a better life for our family, not just here, but also in the Philippines, because a lot of us still support our family in the Philippines. Whether it's education or helping, extended family members. We still do that, and that's our culture. We keep helping our family, even though even the ones that we haven't met, but because we're related, we're gonna help. So, and I hope our kids and the next generations understand what that means.
I need to get to my favorite part: food. Such a huge part of Filipino culture. Someone leaves the exhibit inspired. What dishes should they go try immediately in hopefully Aurora, but in the metro area? Is there a go-to spot, go-to dishes?
I was going to say, for dishes, we always say like the gateway dishes are like lumpia, which is like our version of the egg roll, as well as adobo, which is a really delicious chicken dish. But, Filipino cuisine is much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about some places? Yeah.
Which is the noodles, the rice noodles.
Yeah.
Because that's our staple food, I guess. Yeah. So for those people that have not tried Filipino food, like especially adobo, because it's like, you look at it, you're like, oh. And then you taste it, you're like, oh, it's really good, So, but adobo is also is derived from Spain. That's from Spain, It's basically soy sauce and vinegar, and a lot of the dishes you'll see in restaurants out there, and you will see that word adobo, not just Filipinos.
How can folks get involved with your organization and be supportive of your work? Obviously, we're going to go to the exhibit. It's going on at the Aurora History Museum through April of 2027. But how can we get involved with the organization? How can we be supportive?
We have we do have our website, and we're always looking for volunteers. For instance, we have our 31st year celebrating the Philippine Festival, and that's in June 13 and 14 of this year. And that's our big fundraising at FACC that funds our building and our scholarships and all our programs. That's one of that we need a lot of volunteers, and that's for 2 days. It's a festival that we've been doing for 31 years. And also when we have our any events that we have at FACC for the pantry, and or the food pantry, or any of our cultural events that we have, we always need volunteers. And right now, we have a goal of rolling lumpia, and it's 7,000 lumpia, and we are at 4,500.
Okay.
So we roll lumpia every Sunday at 1 p.m. at FACC.
Donate your talent
Yes.
if you can.
We will teach you how to cook Filipino food. I teach some of the classes, Philippine cuisine there. And while we're rolling egg rolls, we usually have it from start to finish, so people can watch how you do it. By the time they're done rolling 1,000 lumpia, you're an expert. Kidding.
How sore are my hands going to be afterwards, Danielle?
Not that sore.
Not too bad?
Actually, I might not be a good judge of character for that. Just because, I feel like we do it our whole lives.
Yeah.
So I don't know how newcomers feel
You've
to the
built up
lumpia roll. Yeah, you got to
the
roll up
muscle.
the lumpia muscles.
That was Vivian-Norman, president of the Filipino-American Community of Colorado, and Danielle Stratton, the organization's second VP of Culture and Education. Thank you for being here today and sharing the powerful story of Filipino-American heritage with us today.
Thank you for having us.
See, this is exactly what Our Story, Our Way looks like in real life. Now, here's your move. Don't just listen to this episode and move on. Go experience it for yourself. Head over to the Aurora History Museum and check out Mosaics of Culture. Bring your family, bring a friend, take your time with it. Really connect with the stories being told. You can learn more about the exhibit at auroragov.org. And while you're at it, support the Filipino-American Community of Colorado. Follow them, show up to their events, be a part of what they're building here in our community. Learn more at colorado-filipinos.org. Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast. Visit Aurora is the official destination marketing organization for the city of Aurora, Colorado, and acts as the primary liaison between meeting planners and hotel partners. As Aurora's Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Aurora's mission is grounded in showcasing Aurora as a premier destination for meetings, business, and leisure travel. Visit Aurora represents more than 75 plus hotel properties with 13,500 plus guest rooms and more than 1 million square feet of meeting space, including Colorado's largest resort, Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. As Colorado's third largest city, Aurora is located minutes away from Denver International Airport and showcases mountain views, memorable meeting spaces, and 250 plus international eateries that offer a unique experience for each and every visitor. As the gateway to the Rockies, Visit Aurora's role in the local community goes beyond marketing the city as a destination. The Visit Aurora team is here to assist you with your Colorado visit, from facilitating your meeting, event, or convention to helping you discover local flavor and attractions. Go beyond the boardroom in Aurora, Colorado. For more, visit us at visitaurora.com.